will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki, and on Street Talk we deal with the political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Charles Thomas.
Okay, man, we got a lot to discuss tonight, but this thing, they're trying to get some of the things passed in this Floyd bill, and you got this one, I'll say gentleman from West Virginia, who don't want to do anything that, to me and a lot and million more black people, it seems like he's against blacks.
Well, but he's from West Virginia, which is a ruby red state that Trump won by 29 points. So he's got to gild that lily. So for him, H.R. 1 and the John Lewis Act are anathema to what the people of West Virginia want, because they are segregationists from a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call a spade a spade. They're predominantly racist people there.
Mm-hmm.
They want the Keynesian economic advantages that some of these bills are bringing, like the infrastructure, like the stimulus bills, like the COVID bills. They want those things.
Mm-hmm.
When you start talking about equal access to the polls, a lot of those people can just be convinced that it's not in their interest to have everybody vote in a free and unfettered way, and you don't have to use anything more than dog whistles. So for him, voting against H.R. 1 and the John Lewis bill is not surprising. And it's going to take some leverage to get him to move along. I think there's a chance they could get him to approve of the John Lewis bill, which pretty much brings back what we saw with the voting rights bill, some of the things the teeth they took out of that with the pre-clearance requirement.
Okay.
That would be put back in place, but H.R. 1 has a lot more in it that we need, like automatic registration, where easy access to ballots, easy registration, automatic registration, things like that, where the people in power have always been, since the end of enslavement, against free and unfettered access to the polls for melanated people, because again, it's not to their advantage. So Joe Manchin being against it shouldn't be really a surprise at all. He wears a D, and as far as West Virginia politics goes, he is to the left of most of the people, but he is nowhere near what we would expect from most Democrats in this day and time.
This guy, when you see him giving news conference and all that, he's got Republicans around him, but he's a Democrat. He's supposed to be a Democrat. So I mean, what?
That's just a title, but your mindset dictates,
Right.
Who you are.
Yeah.
Just like Dennis was saying, and they got to please the constituents. It's all a game, as far as I'm concerned. It's a wicked game to keep them where they are.
But let's be fair. He did vote for impeachment twice, right?
Yeah.
That puts him separate and apart from any Republican you can name, right?
Yeah.
He did vote for the stimulus packages. He did vote for the COVID relief bills. None of the Republicans would do that. Not one Republican voted for it.
No.
Of course, they go back to their districts and talk about look at all this money I brought in, even though they voted against it. So again, Manchin is not a Republican. He's just way far right of most Democrats. He's so far to the right that he ticks off a lot of people like us. But make no mistake, for West Virginia, he's
on point.
Yeah, he's damn near a communist compared to some of the people there. It's all a matter of where you come from, man. If he ran as a Republican in West Virginia, he would lose. He would get primaried and he would lose. And all they would say is, hey man, didn't you vote to impeach Twitler twice? Yes. Oh, well, you're out. That's it. We're done with you.
Yeah.
Right there, man. That litmus test is his failure.
But right now, we got a lot of things, man, that hangs on whether he's going to vote for it or against it.
Yeah, man. It's a problem.
You know, and to me, that's one of the reasons where we got to look for next year, man. With this, what's the name? In Georgia,
Warnock.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because if he can't win and can't no other Democrat win, because we got 5 Democrats and said they ain't gonna run again. 5. You know, a couple of them gonna be running for mayor or something.
Well, you just run other candidates for them, man. At this point, it's really, at least from a Democratic voting perspective, it's not so much who the personality is, it's who the policy is being moved forward by. And if you're for the things that most Americans want that are Democratic, man, you are a progressive. A lot of Democrats don't even call themselves progressive, but if you look at what they say they want the government to do, they're progressive voters, whether they know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter if these 5 say that I'm going to run for a local dog catcher, I'm going to become a yoga instructor, whatever they're leaving to do, they can be replaced. Warnock, on the other hand, is indispensable. We really got to get behind him and make sure that he wins this short-term election next year in 2022. We just simply have to have him. He's the difference between Schumer being House Majority or House Minority Leader,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have him back next year. And as difficult of a field that the Senate is now, imagine what it would be like if McConnell had the gavel back.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Warnock's indispensable. You got to have him. The other ones, they can be replaced, man.
Well, when we look at, you know, the Democrats lost, what they lose last year? 12 or 13 seats last year.
Yeah.
So,
In the House.
yeah, in the House.
But again, you had a lot of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had a lot of unique things come together that caused some Democrats to lose their seat. But all in all, they still have a majority. They have I think it's a 9 or 10 seat majority right now in the House.
Yeah.
And they've got a 1 seat majority in the Senate. And things now that are going to be done through reconciliation, like the COVID relief bill, like the stimulus package,
Yeah.
and the John Lewis bill that will probably become law, should be enough for people to say, look, but for these people with the D on their chest, I wouldn't have enough money in my account to pay for my car. I wouldn't have enough to pay for rent. I wouldn't have enough money for food. I wouldn't have enough to sustain myself. So I think at some point, man, reality breaks through the right-wing talking point, the Fox News and cheerleading and the hate radio monologues. People start looking at their pocketbooks, particularly when you start looking at the COVID relief package, man, because there was a lot of desperation in this country that people like maybe the 3 of us don't realize how desperate it was, because we were in a relatively secure position. We still had our income. We still had our homes. A lot of people didn't have that, man. But for the Democrats, they still wouldn't have had it, because, again, not one Republican voted for that.
Right.
And I don't think those people are so obtuse that they won't remember that when it comes time to vote again.
So is that why a lot of black people are voting Republican, because they like the way that Republicans handle money?
I don't know I don't understand the premise of your question, that a lot of black people vote Republican.
Yeah.
The overwhelming
So
number of
support-
black people in the country vote Democratic.
Yeah, but I'm saying the ones that did
Well,
support
you know,
Trump.
Man, you got people vote any kind of way for any kind of reasons. If you ever have had a conversation with a so-called black conservative like I have, most of the answers are nonsensical.
Yeah.
They start talking about QAnon conspiracies and
Yeah.
the abortion and I'm like, look, if you're against abortion, real easy thing to do. Don't have one.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
It's a moral thing.
Well, whatever it is, man, they start talking about religion. They start talking about issues that are spoon-fed into their head.
Mm-hmm.
But the numbers are insignificant to worry about, man. It's not that many.
In about 10 or 12 years ago, what's the guy name used to be the head of the Democratic Party? I mean, the Republican Party, the black guy.
Michael Steele.
Michael
Out
Steele.
of Baltimore.
Yeah. He was in. He was out in like at Myers, out in a big opening like that, and a lot of black people was there, shopping and everything. I think I've said this a bunch of times, but on 9 of 10 things, these blacks disagreed with him. But on abortion, they agreed and voted for him. I mean, 9 of 10 things they was against him on that. But one of the things he was saying abortion was wrong, and they voted for him. So,
Hey, man, like I said, people vote for a lot of different reasons, and some of them are rational. They just really are not. I had a black guy I know personally. He sent me this meme meant as a joke, and it was portraying Joe Biden as a pedophile, and it caught me out of right field. I'm like, what's this all about, man? He said, oh man, Biden's a pedophile. I said, no, I don't know that. What's the evidence for this? He said, man, well, da-da. And he started handing me QAnon stuff. So I just did, I went to the Google machine, put in Feinstein and what's my man's name, the pedophile Jeffrey, I forget his name, and Trump. Here's Trump partying with him in a picture with a pedophile who's in prison now. Jeffrey Epstein, I believe his name is, and that's your pedophile.
yeah.
This man went to prison and died in prison because he got snuffed out before he could tell on everybody else.
Right.
It really wasn't a political reason. It wasn't partisan.
Right.
You have a group of wealthy, predominantly white men
Billionaires.
who like young women. Well, Bill Clinton. There's quite a few cats who weren't billionaires, but they were in power.
Right.
Donald Trump among them. Donald Trump ain't got a nickel. Donald Trump's in so much debt that he fronts as a billionaire, but he's a con man. He's taking in new money, funding his lavish lifestyle, stiffing his debtors, and putting up an appearance. But he's not a billionaire.
Right.
But the point is, man, you've got people who would look at that and say, this QAnon meme, which was pulled from somebody's hind parts, right? Steaming with corn in it, and they believe that.
Oh yeah.
But you take a picture of an actual picture of Jeffrey Epstein and Trump holding hands.
Oh,
down
yeah,
there.
yeah.
I don't believe that's fake media. You can't argue people like that.
No.
Right.
There's nothing you can say, man.
No.
So if you've got 10-11% of Trump's votes in the 20 election that came from it wasn't that many, but if you saw 12 to 14% of black men who voted, that's the way I should phrase it, voted for Trump.
Yeah.
And if you were to sit down and talk to one of them, you couldn't have a cogent conversation. They couldn't give you policy reasons why they did it, because they relate to the dude, man.
Right.
They want to be a big billionaire from out front.
Yeah.
They want to be the king on the throne with the adulation of millions. That's what they see.
Yeah, because I was before the voting last year, I would pick up Al Sharpton. I can't listen to him much, but I pick him up every day I could, And this was for the voting. Black guy was talking about, I don't know, man. I don't know about voting for Biden. It's like, but by voting, you're going to vote for Trump.
But you know what, man? This is how stupid it is. Okay. Let's rewind the tape because it's been a long time since we all been together, right? January 2020.
Okay.
World Health Organization says we have something coming out of China that could devastate the world, and we need to take some steps. And what did Trump do? Not a damn thing.
No.
He ignores it.
Yeah.
He pretends like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
In February, early February, meanwhile, before we even get to early February, Japan, South Korea, Hong Kong, Vietnam. These areas that are proximate to China, to Wuhan, China, are starting to take steps.
Right.
Masks mandatory.
Yeah, lockdown.
Lockdown mandatory. Social distancing mandatory. We will not let this thing obliterate our people. They immediately went to those steps, and
Yep.
they never did have the type of devastating invasion that we had.
No.
Early February, Trump saying, we got 15 people, and it's going to go away. To be like a miracle.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go away.
yeah.
And
Disappear.
each
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
And that brother that you talking about in undoubtedly knew somebody, maybe family members who died from it. He ignores that. He ignores an election that Trump lost by 7 million votes,
Yeah.
and cause for an insurrection, which in January 6th we had.
Yeah.
They're up to 540 arrests and still looking for more people.
Yeah.
He ignores all that to justify jump. There's nothing you can talk to him about.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The economy was failing. The people. The only thing that stopped millions more people being evicted was a moratorium brought in by the Democrats, because the Republicans were like, you out.
Yeah.
Nothing we can do for you.
Yeah.
You vote for that, we can't have a conversation.
Right.
Because
No.
I can't come to you and say, for example, say Chuck. I say, Chuck, why, man? What's the policy that made you attracted to them? You couldn't point to one.
Right.
So if you couldn't point to one, you'd have to go to something like a cartoon, like some QAnon or Rush said.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
heard on like, well,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
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 that's like me trying to argue whether Deputy Dog was left hand or right hand. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
It just
yeah.
whatever you want him to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, his whole time in office was like, I don't know, a skit or something. It wasn't.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It was just
Well, you know,
that reality show that he
well,
had.
the thing they said, you know, he sat up and watched TV most of the day, watching the
Morning talk shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fox
Yeah.
and Friends.
Yeah.
And base his decision off for the
Yeah.
comments.
yeah, you know, he would do an interview.
He wouldn't.
with
He
Fox.
wouldn't. He wouldn't read the dossiers.
No.
You know that his agencies was giving him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the presidential daily briefing.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He
You
didn't
know?
want to do it. It's too much like work, man.
Yeah. You know.
But yet this guy you talking about said that's what I want.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's what.
We're up to almost 600,000 people dead.
Dead.
We still have
Yeah.
people dying
Oh yeah. Yeah.
daily.
Yeah.
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 from COVID.
Yeah.
And it was June 14th. Most people have been vaccinated, but there's a lot of people like, I'm not getting it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because of that idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If Trump had said on day one, when the World Health said we've got this thing coming, and he said, how could I max out how could I pimp this? How could I make some money off this? You gotta have the Trump mask.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the best mask in the world.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
got a red, white, and blue here
Yeah.
and Trump across the
Yeah.
bottom. All these U-Haws
Yeah.
Yeah.
would have
Oh, yeah.
been running.
Yeah.
We would not have had the spread.
No.
Yeah.
You got to stay home and watch Fox. You can't go to work.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure your rent's paid. Hey man, we would not have had all these hundreds of thousands of people dead.
No. No.
We
You
would
know?
not have had the pandemic that we did, man. That's how gullible these idiots are.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, one of the things, man, is somehow we got people out here, man, just whatever Trump says, you know, that's the only thing they go by.
Yeah.
You know, here this man is the worst liar ever lived.
Right.
You know, the worst liar to even be permitted to live.
Yeah.
I mean, really, man, this man's the worst liar that'll ever be in this country, man, for the next 700 or 800
Right.
years.
And the really insulting part is, man, he's got no work ethic,
No,
no integrity,
no,
and he's got an IQ of about room temperature.
yeah,
Yeah.
And he's just a dumb dude.
Yeah.
man.
Right.
But people listen to that guy and say, "That's my man."
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I mean, and a lot of them are intelligent people. Like, what's the
Oh,
guy
yeah.
in Texas, the attorney? He called his wife ugly, and he still supported Trump.
But that's because he's you talking about Cruz.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He talked about Cruz's daddy. Talked about his
Yeah.
wife.
Oh, yeah.
Called her a dog.
yeah,
He talked about Jeb Bush. Called him low
Yeah.
energy. Led Jeb Bush's
Yeah.
son George P. Bush.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, is half Mexican descent, is now running as a Trumpster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
understand
man.
that.
But that's not that they believe it, Chuck. See, that's separate and apart from these suckers that you know,
Believe in it.
working class jobs, and live week to week, month to month, and watch Fox News. See, they believe it. See,
Yeah.
Trump to them is exemplary of what a billionaire is.
Right.
Look at him; he's got gold-plated toilets.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look, he's got his own plane with the name
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
They don't look at the ledgers and the balance sheet. So this
Right,
guy's so
right.
far in
That's
debt
why they didn't show his.
that he don't have enough as much money as the three of us. They don't see that part. Of
Right.
it. They're all about the sizzle, not the steak. I ain't talking about them. Cruz is doing it for power, man. Cruz wants to be proximate to power for his own self-aggrandizement. Remember how he took off? Remember they had the
Right.
big snowstorm in
Yeah.
in Texas,
Yeah.
and he took off to Cancun,
Yeah.
and they caught him at the airport, and he came on back.
Yeah.
Man, that's just being shamed into doing the right thing. It's not about him believing any of it.
Right.
Man. He's in it for himself.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all that dude
Yeah.
is, man.
And
It's in Rubio, all of them, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what makes
You got not one Republican, many of whom are running for their lives on January 6th. Not one would vote to bring that charge.
No.
Come
Yeah,
on, man. Come
yeah.
on.
That's sad.
Yeah.
they right now they can't
Well,
get.
I take that back. You had a couple. You had Romney, and you had a man from West Michigan.
Yeah.
But you just don't have that many.
No,
man, who,
right.
who had that
Yeah.
courage. Say, look, man, the facts are this dude is a traitor.
Yeah, yeah, and that's when I realized it was a cult, because they was afraid of the
That's all it is.
backlash.
Cult of personality. Yeah.
Right now, they only can get six Republicans to do anything.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, and because of the black women flipped Georgia, you know, now they're changing all the voting
Oh,
situation
yeah.
scenario.
Nationwide.
Yeah.
Nationwide.
Right
And they're
here,
getting away with
right
it.
here in Michigan, man.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to change some things here in Michigan, man. It's like what?
Yeah,
And see, if Joe Manchin was a true moderate, forget progressive. He was just a true moderate, man. It'd be a no-brainer.
Right.
You don't take away people's fundamental right to vote
No.
Right.
and call yourself a democracy.
Yeah.
You can't do
No.
it.
No.
He doesn't have a problem with it right now. I don't know, I think the filibuster, I don't want to do it. The filibuster, man, the filibuster was created to suppress black people
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
first place,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if you're so tied in and loyal to the filibuster, I have to ask why.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, that's not the reason why. The reason why he's for the filibuster, man, is because it's in his own personal interest to
Yes.
be
Mm-hmm.
interest in the filibuster. It gives him immense power.
Yeah.
He's probably the most powerful man in Washington right now outside
Yeah,
of
oh,
Biden.
yeah, he is.
So, yeah, man, it's all selfish interest.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
guys don't have integrity.
and I remember when they had Trump for that impeachment, and those two lawyers that they had representing Trump, and the stuff that they was getting away with, man, it was just
Well, you know, they were saying a couple of days ago in the news, man. Trump had a couple of Democrats. What was it? He had something that he was
blackmail, extortion thing.
something he had on two of the Democrats, and they saying that it was against the law for him to be doing that, you know. But you know,
Well, he was running a coup from the Oval Office,
yeah,
and he got away with that.
oh yeah. But you know, man, the thing is that people have to watch out, man, because you know, it might not be Trump, it could be anybody. But man, if they don't watch who they voting for and all of these things, we'll end up again, man, with somebody like that in the White House.
Only with brains. Only somebody with an IQ above room temperature.
Yeah,
Who's just has those same fascist authoritarian instincts, the same self-interest, but has the brain power to carry out some things that Trump was just too
yeah,
stupid to do.
that Putin can trust.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily trust, could be easily manipulated by.
Right.
Trump is just dumb, man.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
You know, Don Jr. dumb. They're dumb. Man.
yeah,
They're just
yeah.
dumb people,
Right.
man. But people in this country prioritize wealth over intelligence, over integrity, over righteousness,
Yeah, morals.
over morals,
Everything.
Oh, you got money?
Yeah.
All right, man, you can be in my club.
Right.
How'd you get in that mind? I don't want to know. Just give
Right,
me
get
something.
some.
That's
Yeah.
how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, he's got. This is like a couple of months ago. The people that had sent him $2 million and some dollars.
Yeah.
Like GoPayMe fund.
Yeah,
After January 6th.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And he can use it for his discretion.
Oh yeah,
Okay, of course.
you know.
Now that's criminal right there.
Yeah,
Well, if you send money into somebody's campaign fund,
Mm-hmm.
they have a lot of discretion about how they can use that money, man.
Yeah.
They have a lot of discretion about once it's in their coffers. And they even send out fundraisers, man, that said, if you don't uncheck this box, which is so small that you can't barely break it out with a magnifying glass, that $50 donation you gave is now going to be monthly instead of one time. And then the next time they send out a notice, that little box says that $50 check that you didn't uncheck, it's going to be weekly. You had people had their bank account cleaned out.
Right.
Yeah.
There's one guy who had his bank account cleaned out to the tune of like $6,000, his life savings, man.
Wow.
He was relying on that money to help him, buy some,
Right.
like a mobile home or something.
Yeah.
Not a wealthy man at all, but he's a Trump supporter.
Mhm.
They cleaned out his bank
Yeah.
account, and you know my man said, "I'm still a Trump supporter."
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
They
yeah.
want to be
Ignorant.
kind.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
They want to be kind.
You know, and so that's the thing I'm saying, man. It's like, and I'm just hoping that, that 30% 31% he had when he was president. I'm just hoping whoever they are, they just stay out there, and maybe, we can get more people to vote next year than voted.
Yeah.
Well, you had an all-time record. Biden got the most votes by any candidate in presidential history.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can only grow unless you do things to suppress it and make it impossible for people to vote. And
Right, what
that's
they're
what
doing.
Republicans do state by state,
Right.
Mhm.
trying
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
it more difficult or
Yeah.
impossible for people to vote because they know they can't win on the merits.
Right.
They don't have the numbers. There's just not as many of them as there are Democrats by any measure.
Mhm.
So they suppress the vote.
Ain't that the same thing as gerrymandering?
Well, gerrymandering is part of the process. Gerrymandering is just when you change the district
Local,
to say
yeah, local,
you do,
yeah.
like say you got a box. Say you got a zip code,
Yeah.
Mhm.
a zip code,
Yeah.
which is pretty objectively constructed.
Yeah.
Like 48917, where we live, that's the west side of Lansing, Delta
Yeah.
Township.
Inner city.
Yeah, that could be one zip. That could be one district.
Mhm.
But what is typically done is they say, and the Delta is a bad example because it's pretty homogenous. There's some black people out there, but it's not a group that's big enough to turn an election one way or another. But say you had a district where there was 20,000 people,
Mhm.
half of them black, half of them white.
Mhm.
About half of them Democratic, half of them Republican. Republicans getting power by one vote.
Mhm.
They gerrymander that district, so what they'll do is they'll take that square area and they'll dilute it. So you take two of the Democrats, you put them over here.
Yeah.
You
Right.
take two of them over, you put them over here. And next thing you know, it looks like a tarantula for
Yeah.
a district, and they just dilute the vote.
Yeah. Rezone.
And even with that, they lost.
Mhm.
So gerrymandering is part of it, but saying that you can't be automatically vote, that you can't vote without a driver's license or a
Yeah.
state issued ID.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole lot of elderly black folks out here, man, who came of age at a time where they didn't even have access to
Right.
get an ID,
Right.
and they still don't have
Right.
even a birth certificate.
Yeah.
You've got people out here who say you can't do the polls, souls to the polls on Sundays.
Right.
Who does that besides black people? You have easy access to mailboxes. We're going to close them
Yeah.
down all in your
Yep.
areas,
Yep.
and you'd have to drive 50
Right.
miles one
Right.
way,
Mhm.
or early voting, or whatever the function is.
Yeah.
They've made it impossible, man, because they don't have the numbers. And then they want to brag up and take a gun to some other country, point at them and say,
Yeah.
you need to be like us, Democratic,
Yeah.
or it's going to
Yeah.
blow your brains out.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and the thing is, man, is that I was listening to some radio, driving to Mississippi, and you turn here and late at night you can't get nothing but these old
Crazy shit.
yeah.
That's nationwide.
right
Yeah.
AM is now right-wing radio.
Yeah.
Has been since the 90s.
yeah
And it's
You
a
know.
strong signal.
yeah and
WJR.
oh
WJR
man.
used to be a gem of a radio
Yeah.
station, man.
Yep.
You could hear sports, you could have political
Yep.
talk,
Yep.
you could have economic information, how to. It represented the community.
Yeah.
All you hear now, man, is only these right-wing wackos.
Right.
24 hours a day.
Right, and that's why they was so easily influenced.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got people who are plumbers, pipe fitters, work in a factory. They're not sophisticated people. They never took political
No.
science.
Right.
They didn't pay attention in high school when they had the kind of classes that taught you how government works, civics, things like that.
Yeah.
They didn't care about that,
No.
but they care about listening to Rush.
Oh, yeah.
May he rest in hell.
And they had the nerve to say that Trump was anointed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, it could be. It just depends on what
But
did
on the
anoint.
white, yeah.
All right, man. We got about a minute. What do you think? I know it's we looking at a long ways off, but to me, and you guys and million or more Americans, what do you think about Georgia? What do you think going to happen, my man, in Georgia?
It depends on a lot of it depends on the laws they're able to pass in Georgia. They have passed some, but they were watered down. They weren't as bad as they could have been. I think that with what's been passed this year and what should be passed before that election takes place next year, you should have some people seeing the economic benefit of voting for Democrats, ignore the right-wing propaganda and look in their own pocketbook. But for the economic stimulus plan, but for the COVID relief bill, but for extended unemployment. Hell, you got these guys now saying that we give too much unemployment because these people don't want to go back to work for these usury type of $2 an hour fees.
Yeah.
They got a problem with that.
Right.
So if they look at it rationally, man, they should be able to make the right choice.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's a good question, but with all the corruption going on, I can't even make a prediction.
I think, like Dennis said, if the people think about where they would be and where they might be and all these other things, I think he'll win again. But we can't just assume he's going to win again, because it's too tight, man. In the Senate, too tight. All right. That's the end of Street Talk for tonight, and stay tuned because we'll be right back next Monday. My name is Ahmad Chakaraka, and we'll catch you more Street Talk. Peace.